Today, I'm going to talk about what do chickens eat. Let's go. Welcome to Becky's Homestead. What do chickens eat? That is a question asked by both people that have kept chickens for a long time or people that are just starting out, old and new. You know, a lot of people have that question. And the reason is everybody wants happy, healthy chickens that look beautiful and lay a lot of eggs. And they want to know how to get that. A lot of people that have kept chickens for a long time, you know, see their chickens go downhill or they stop laying eggs as much and all that. Most chickens will lay good for their first year. You'll have great egg production. And then it's after that things change, and then people are like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what happened? I was getting a lot of eggs. And the reason is because they're not getting what their body needs to, make eggs and make feathers and all that other stuff. The best way to see what a chicken eats naturally, and I try to feed all my animals like as close to a natural diet as I can, like what they would normally eat if they were loose in the world and could just go get whatever they feel they needed. And you can check this out yourself, and you can, do this little experiment yourself. Let your chickens loose and then just sit and watch them. Your chickens, are they in the pasture eating grass, grazing on grass like a horse does? Or are they in the woods scratching in the dirt looking for bugs and worms and stuff like that? Is it a combination of the two? You can just see for yourself what it is. I know for a fact for my chickens, they are mostly in the woods looking for bugs. My chickens are all like big meat eaters, and I think a lot of birds are, if you just think of birds in general. Birds all eat meat and seeds and stuff. So, you want to try to give them what their body needs to be healthy. Give them what they need to be healthy. So I just want to touch on a couple of things that'll happen if you're not feeding your chickens what they need. What'll happen is they will not have a good feather coat. They'll just look kind of dull. It won't look poofy and shiny. They won't lay eggs as much as they could. They have the ability to lay quite a few eggs, but if they're not getting enough to eat, first and foremost, their nutrients and energy is going to go to feathers because, that's like their clothing. They need that. And then second will be for the eggs, if there's anything extra left over. And if you think about it, it takes a lot of nutrients to grow feathers because chickens grow new feathers once a year when they molt. Some do it twice a year. And then also extra calories on top of that to lay eggs, It just needs a lot of nutrients to do all that regularly. Like I said, young chickens will do pretty good their first year. But, after that, you'll have to feed them a really healthy diet if you want to keep them going. So it's like us, if we want to be healthy and have energy and, have enough muscles so we can do stuff, we have to feed our bodies what it needs. So I'm going to mention a few things of what I feed my chickens. I'm going to kind of go down a list. I do want to point this out first though. Chickens are so much fun to feed because they're foodies. They like everything. They're just so cute and just so much fun to feed them any little goodies or scraps or whatever that you have. So that's one good thing about chickens. Okay, so I'm going to go down a list of a few things that I feed my chickens on a regular basis. All right, whole corn is always a staple on my farm for the birds. So whole corn, black sunflower seeds, and the reason I like those two is they both have a lot of oil in them, which is the fat, which, that's really good for the chickens and they need that. Okay, so apart from that, I'll feed whole oats or whatever, crimped oats, some kind of whole oats. I will also feed them some high quality cat kibble or dog kibble. And the reason I like to feed those is those both have, I'll get the kind that has no grain in it and it'll have meat in it. So those chickens need high protein. So they need the meat from the kibble. And the reason I do that is it is a very convenient way to add animal protein into their diet. You can just, buy a bag of whole corn, sunflower seeds, oats, and then a small bag of high quality kibble. And you can just mix all that together in a tub, and you will just, you can just scoop that out and feed them, and they're, getting a pretty good diet of whole food that they need. Another thing you can feed them though, of course, if you want to add meat to their diet too, is mealworms. Any canned meat works well for the chickens. It could be canned meat for human consumption like tuna fish, salmon, sardines, anything like that. And then of course you can also buy high quality cat food or dog food that is meat based as well. So, any of those you can just throw in there and they'll love that. Also, table scraps work really, really well. If you eat meat and you can just add some of the table scraps to the chicken coop, of course you got to have something left. When I say scraps, according to the size of your flock, you have to make sure they're getting enough. And then on top of that, they will eat weeds and garden scraps when I'm weeding and stuff. I can throw it in the coop, they'll eat that. And that of course is if they're not out free ranging, because otherwise they can just get their own. Also in the winter, I love to feed alfalfa hay. That has a lot of calcium in it and they just love those little leaves. Alfalfa has little leaves, dark green leaves, and they just love that. So, you can get the cubes and soak them and throw it in the coop and they will eat that. But they do like the hay itself better. They just love that green hay. So that is basically what I feed my chickens on a regular basis. And I have very healthy chickens. My chickens can be 5 and 6 years old and still laying eggs. That's considered a pretty old chicken. Chickens probably live between, I want to say maybe 4 and 8 years old, might be considered kind of an oldish chicken. So, 5 and 6 years old, if they're still laying eggs, you're doing something right. And they're healthy, and still able to lay an egg. It's not going to be as frequent as the younger chickens. They do lay, although I am getting almost one a day from my I call her Granny. And so just make sure, I do sometimes, people add a bag of chicken crumbles or chicken pellets. And, that's fine if you do that, but always make sure that's in addition to all the whole food you feed your chickens. I don't even buy the crumbles anymore or the pellets because they just go to waste. My chickens will not touch them. I think they get spoiled with the good food and then they just turn their beak nose up at the crumbles and the pellets. Just like my dogs get spoiled, once they eat the good stuff, they don't really want the, I don't know if I want to say junky stuff or whatever, just less quality. 2 more points I want to make that is very important to the chicken's diet and like digesting the food and everything. One, of course, is grit. Now, if your chickens are free ranging and they're able, long enough, they're out long enough, they can like kind of find little rocks and little things to eat on their own. But it's always good to offer the crushed oyster shells. It doesn't do any harm in it. It's very cheap and chickens need the grit to digest their food and break it down. So there's no point in wasting your money feeding all the good healthy food if they're not able to break it down and get the nutrients out of it. So that's why you always, every day, want to have grit available to the chickens. I literally just dump it on the floor in my coop and they just pick through it and get whatever they want. Also, the second thing I want to talk about is if your chickens have worms, guess who is going to be eating all those nutrients? The worms, which is going to cut the amount of nutrients that the chickens get themselves. So always make double, triple sure that you deworm your chickens on a regular basis. How you can tell if your chickens have worms, this is what I've discovered, is if their eggs come out poopy, there's like poop on the eggs and they're dirty eggs, your chances are your chickens have worms. I say definitely. If your eggs come out perfectly clean, shiny, there's almost a little sheen on that eggshell, your chickens are very healthy. So what I do, earlier in the video, I was talking about how I will mix all the different foods and grains in a garbage can, and it just makes it very convenient. At the same time, I will put in the diatomaceous earth and mix it in there. So they're getting fed healthy food and being wormed on a daily basis. It works really well and it's very convenient. If you want to learn more about chickens, buy my chicken book. The link is in the description.